Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for a very special May the 4th Star Wars video. Now today we're taking a look at none other than the JazzInc 1/6 scale Millennium Falcon Cockpit. I personally am really excited to get started filming this piece. Do bear in mind though that the team, the father-son duo over at JazzInc, Hans and Joost, are doing this stuff in an unlicensed capacity. They're all done for the fans, by the fans, in-house. So do keep that in the back of your mind if you are looking to order any of these insanely detailed, big honkin' pieces. I have included the link down in the description below if you'd like to head over to their website and check out their various other creations. I do also want to say a huge thank you to both Hans and Joost for creating this stuff when other companies, the official big name companies, just simply tease it and then don't bother. So yes, a huge thank you goes out to them, and why not show them some love down in the comments below, because without them, stuff like this literally wouldn't be possible. What we are going to do now is, off camera, unbox the Millennium Falcon Cockpit, and then if you've seen any of my previous large-scale vehicle-style videos, you'll know what's coming next. We're going to take a look at the piece itself from an overhead perspective, then intersplice a bunch of really nice, slow-moving cinematic footage with, of course, various characters inside the cockpit. So sit down, buckle in, prepare for the jump to hyperspace, and let's take a closer look. And here we have it, the absolutely insanely gorgeous and really darn massive Millennium Falcon Cockpit. Just try and wrap your head around the size of this thing. I know it's hard to see on camera, but this is 1/6 scale. You can fit a 1/6 scale Hot Toys A New Hope Han Solo on the inside with the rest of the crew as well. And by all means, we will of course be doing that throughout the course of this video. How could we not? I cannot wait to see all of the figures inside this cockpit. But yeah, it's absolutely huge. Now I will try and keep this video as structured as possible, talking about the various components. And of course, the first thing I want to talk about, as I usually do, is the base, because yes, this thing has one. The base is actually rather unique with this piece. First of all, it's relatively small in its footprint. It nicely tucks under the cockpit itself, and it is color matched to the hull. It's pretty much the exact same color and weathering pattern, so it doesn't really stand out on the shelf. That, in my opinion, is a good thing. One of the coolest things though is it houses all of the electronics. There are speakers and there are lights that go along with the cockpit itself. Now on JazzInc's website they call out that there are over 300 individual LEDs that power this thing, and we will be taking a look at the lights in much more detail, don't worry. Now, let's talk about the paint finish on the cockpit itself. It's gorgeous. The paint applications are nicely applied, there's weathering pass over the top, there's this oil stain effect, there's a whole bunch of greebly type detail all over the cockpit as you would expect. Hans and Joost spent an incredibly arduous amount of time making sure the detail was just right, and I personally think they nailed it. The outside of this thing looks stunning. Almost as good, dare I say, as the inside. Yeah, it looks that good in person. The color looks about right. It's got this greyish military ship type color, and I think it works really well for the cockpit here. So personally, from an exterior perspective, I think they did a really good job. Now let's talk about the removable components, because yes, there are some removable pieces. The entire front of the cockpit can be detached, so number one, you can of course load your figures on the inside, but number two, in case you want to do photography and not have the glare from the windows, you can pretty much just remove that top panel. But that's not it. If you want to remove just the windows, you can take out just the windows themselves and still have that top panel and the front on there. That means you can get that classic Millennium Falcon look with all those various windows, but not have the glare. That is genius, and that's something that was added after fan feedback. Honestly, not many companies would do that, so I'm glad JazzInc sat down and went back to the drawing boards to make all of those features possible, Because, yeah, when you think about it, it is kind of essential. People want to show this thing off. They want to take a bunch of pictures, so that's exactly what they can do. Now, the detail on the front is great, and so is it on the outside, but I want to talk for a moment about the back. The back of this thing has detail as well. It's insanely well done. Honestly, I might be taking just as many pictures of Han Solo and the cast and crew of the Millennium Falcon standing in that back section as I will on the inside. It's iconic, it does have a removable magnetic door, so you can have figures pass through from the back to the front. Something that was completely unnecessary. That door panel could have easily been a fixed piece that you couldn't remove. But not for JazzInc, that wasn't good enough. They made it something that can come out, and it's painted really well. It's nicely weathered, there's this metallic effect to it, and same goes for all of the other paint applications on this inside part. There are also real wires, so it just adds to that sort of crazy 70s aesthetic of a ship that was scratch built for this film on a relatively low budget. It looks exactly like it did in the film, which in my opinion is a really good thing, as I'm sure all of you will agree with me on. Now, as you can see, we do have a few characters standing inside this, and I think it looks fantastic. I'm curious though, what do you think of this, and what combo of figures would you go with for the back of the Millennium Falcon cockpit? Because technically you could have maybe a Bespin Han Solo in the back, or even a Solo version of Solo in the back, and then the A New Hope figure in the front, and then you're getting two displays for the price of one. Rather ingenious for a piece as big as this. You're making the best use of all of that enormous space, because this thing, as I've mentioned before, has a pretty darn big footprint. Alright, let's move on to the thing that I'm sure most of you are here to see, and it's of course the interior of this cockpit, because yeah, it's the pièce de résistance, the icing on the cake, whatever word you want to use to describe it. This thing is gorgeous on the inside. Now, if you do have the lights off, it looks great. But where this thing really shines is when you hit the lights, and this thing just comes to life. Now, there are a couple of different versions of this cockpit, and the one that I have right here is the DX version. It comes with this absolutely gorgeous metal nameplate because I was one of the earliest backers of the cockpit. Yes, I know it's a lot of money to put down, but when you have a company as good at delivering high quality products as JazzInc, I didn't really have too much of an issue with it. Now, the lights themselves, as I said, when you hit the switch and this thing lights up, it looks gorgeous. The entire thing is illuminated with a bunch of different colored LEDs, just like in the film. There are also a couple of screens and various panels on the inside, just like we saw in A New Hope. Now, there are various different iterations of the Millennium Falcon cockpit, and I do believe Hans and Joost took a little bit of inspiration from each of them, but mainly focused on the OG, the original, which is of course the A New Hope cockpit, which I know a lot of people will be happy about. It doesn't really prohibit you though from using other versions of the characters in this cockpit, but I personally will be displaying my A New Hope crew in this piece because I think it looks spectacular. As you can see right here, we have some figures on the inside. If the lights brought this thing to life, I don't even know how to describe how good it looks with the figures on the inside. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Do you like the way this thing looks? I'm pretty sure I know the answer is, of course, going to be yes, because it is truly a sight to behold. I'm running out of adjectives to describe how impressive this thing is in person. It has a presence. It's one of those childhood things that when you see it in person, with the figures on the inside as high quality as they are, it just really warms the heart. And especially on a day like today, being May the 4th, when this video was filmed in Australia, it's kind of a little bit heartwarming, dare I say. I really do love the way this piece looks. It's stunning with the figures on the inside. It looks even better. Now, just quickly before we move on, I thought I'd show you, or let you hear, what the sound effects sound like with the figures inside, just for a little bit more atmosphere, if you will. So you do get a nice handy remote to control the power functions, and yes, there are really 15 different sound effects. I did find that the last 6 are mostly movie clips. They are rather long, which is fantastic, and it's a really nice party piece. But for the purpose of this video, I don't really want to get any copyright strikes, so I won't be playing any of those because they do contain some copyright music. However, some of the top functions are actually just Millennium Falcon sound effects, so we may as well start off with them. Starting with, of course, number 3. Then moving on to number 4. And lastly, for the purposes of this video at least, number 6. So as you can hear, they are pretty darn classic Millennium Falcon sounds, and this is an incredibly nice touch. It is, as I said, the party piece of this set, if of course the lights already weren't enough. I really do love the sound effects on the cockpit. Now, if you are looking to pick this up, I think you can still pre-order it. I have included the link in the description below for your reference purposes only, because do remember, this is done in a hobby capacity. It's unlicensed, so they don't have the rights from Lucasfilm to produce this item, so do bear that in mind. Also, if you are heading down to the description, why not check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the awesome Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection, and of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.